Hello guys, you're welcome back to Daily Code Work. Today we're going to have a simple demo on how to secure our RESTful API with Spring Security, Spring Boot 3. You know, just as you might have known, the release of the Spring Boot 3 and the Spring Framework 6 actually brings along some changes to the Spring Security Framework. So what we're going to do today is how to configure or how to secure our RESTful API using Spring Boot 3 and Spring 6, right? Okay, for that purpose, I've created a simple project here called iLibrary, which is book library. And if we open up this project, you'll see that we have two packages here. One package is for the book and one is for the users. Basically, we're going to allow every user, we're not going to secure any endpoints right here in the user API. We're going to just set free, just allow this one, not like security here. But the book one here, the book API here is what we're going to secure, right? What are we going to secure here? Right now, if you look here, we have like 5 endpoints. Here we have delete the book, we have update, we have add a new book, we have find book by ID, and we have view all books. So basically what we're going to do here is that we're going to allow every users of the systems to be able to view all books or find a book by the ID. But not every user of this system should be able to add a new book or update a book or delete a book. So we're going to leave these tags here. We're going to lock down these 3 endpoints for only admin users. So any user with admin role should be able to add a new book or delete or update. So that is what we're going to do. So before we go on, let's go to Postman to see how this project is working. If you look here, the project is already running. So what we're just going to do is to go to Postman. So we test it and see how it actually works. Okay, so this is Postman, and if you look here, I've already created a collection here, a new collection called library. And inside the library collection, we have a folder called the book and the user. So this one actually at the endpoint, this is the book API, and this one is the user API. And opening up this, we see that all the endpoints we have in there is what I've already saved here in Postman. So the first thing we're going to do here is to let's try to query our database to get all the books we have in there, right? Okay, so here there's the API, there's the endpoint to get all the books from the database. So what we're just going to do is to hit on the send button and we'll see what we got in the database. The request is taking a little bit longer because this is the first time, right? Okay, cool. So now we see that we have how many books from the database? 1, 2, 3. We got 3 books from the database here. If I quickly swing over to SQL Workbench, and we see that, okay, there's the book here. So let me see what we have here. Okay, cool. So you see that we have 3 books right here in our database. And these 3 books are what we got right here in our Postman, right? That's what we got here. So quickly, we're going to find a book by ID. So now let's find a book with the ID 2. Let's see if we have a book with the ID 2 in our database. Okay, cool. So here we got a book with the ID number 2. So let's try to see if we have any book with the ID number 6 here. Here we see that there is no book in our database with ID number 6. So if we go back to our SQL, we see that there is no book here with ID number 6, right? There is no book. We only have ID number 2, number 4, and number 5. There is nothing like number 6. So which means our project is working perfectly. Going back to, all these ones are working as well. All these endpoints are working as well. So when we go back to the users, let's try to see if we've gotten any users in our database. So here I'm just going to fire this button and see what we got. Okay, cool. So here we can see that we have 2 users in our database. Again, we're going to swing over to SQL Workbench and see if actually we got any users in our database in the users table. Okay, cool. So now we can see that we actually have we got two users right here in our database with the role of admin and the role of user. Now we can see that we have Samson Alfred as admin, and we have Rita Johnson as the user, right? Cool. So now we're going to go back to our to our um, to our ID. So just like I've said before, this is the book controller. So now we're going to secure these three endpoints. So before we go, I will quickly encourage you to follow the link below this video to go to my Git repository to download this project. Then you set it up on your IDE and make sure it takes run it and it's working just like we've seen in Postman already, right? Okay, cool. So the first thing we're going to do here, I'm just going to close down this here and just close down this first. So the first thing we're going to do here is to open up our POM file. This is our POM file where we manage all our dependencies, right? I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is to add the web security dependency here. So we're going to add, I'm just going to say dependency here, and I'm going to say security, right? So maybe I just say Spring security. Actually, it's not okay. Here we got it here, right? And we got it here. So here we have the Spring Boot starter security. So having added this, I'm just going to reload our dependencies so the security components can reflect in our project. So let's take a little break while. All right. So we can see that our dependency has finished, our POM file has finished loading. So I'm just going to close this down, and I think I'm going to stop this server for a while so we can restart again. Now, having done this, what we're going to do right now is the first thing I'm going to do is to create here, is to right click here and create a new folder or a new package called security. Security, right? So now we're going to, in this security folder, we're going to, okay, so here we have created a new package called security. So I'm just going to right click on this folder and create I'm going to create a couple of classes here that will be implemented one by one. So the first one I'm going to create is library. I'm just going to say library. So this class is going to be called library security config, and just hit on enter. And then I'm going to create another class called, so we're going to call this class library user details. Library user details. So this one we're going to call library user details. And the third class we're going to be creating here is called just new class. So this one is going to call library user detail service, right? Library user details service. So we have these three classes. So this is the config class, there's the user details, and there's the user service details. So we're going to be implementing these classes. We're going to be implementing our codes here one after the other. But the first class I'm going to implement here is this one here, this security code. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this one here, we're going to just get this with the annotation at configuration, right? It's going to be at configuration here. And also we're going to enable the web security. Web security. Sorry, this is web. Here. So these are the two annotations we're going to need in this very class. So this is the class where we're going to be configuring our beans, right? Now, if we remember before Spring Boot 3, there's a class that we need to extend here. And this class is called the Web Security Adapter, right? Web Security Configurer Adapter. Where is it? Here. So this is the class here, the Web Security Configurer Adapter. So extending this class is going to give us some free methods to override and do whatever we want with them. But moving down to Spring 3, to Spring Boot 3, we don't need to configure, or we don't need to override that class anymore. So what we're going to do is that we're going to configure. So if you look here, if you read this place here, it's like moving to component base, right? For every use case. So instead of here, you see, in Spring Security 5.7, we deprecated the Web Security Configurer Adapter as we encourage users to move towards a component-based security configuration. You see, so this is the reason why this class was deprecated, right? Or it's deprecated because it's no longer in here. So, which means every configuration we're going to do right here, we're going to be creating beans for each configuration we're going to be doing, right? Okay, good. So now we go back to let's go back to our IDE. Let's go back here. So the first bean we're going to create here is the password encoder. Because if you come back to Postman, where is Postman? If we come back into Postman, we'll see that our user, for example, if I decide to find this user by ID here, ID number 5, for example. So this user, we have to find this user by the email. So let me just copy this email here. Let me copy this email and find the user by the ID. The ID is the email. So I'm just going to remove this one from here and paste the new email. So I'm just going to hit on enter, right, or send. Sorry for that. The project is not running. I've shut down the server, so I'm going to fire up the server again. So let's do that. Okay, cool. So now we can see that our project is up and running. The server has started already. So we're going to go back to Postman and see what we have here. So I'm going to pretend to find a user by ID, right? So right now, we can't access this project anymore because by adding the Spring Security dependencies, so the whole of this project has been locked down. So we can see here that we are having unauthorized, which means we have no access. Like look at here, we have same as forbidden. So we need to log into the system, but right now we don't have access to login, so we cannot access anything anymore. So for example, if I decide to move this one here to the browser, if I copy this and we go to the browser and I just go here and paste this here, you see we're going to be redirected to login, right? So here we can see that the Spring Security is directing us to login. This is the default implementation of Spring Security, right? But right now we don't have any user, but we can log in actually because the default username here is user, right? Is user. And what is the password? How do we log in? So if we go back here, we go back to our console. If we go back to our console, we see a password generated for us here by Spring Security. So by this, actually, we can log in. By this one here, we can actually log in. So I'm just going to paste this here, and let's log in. Good. So here we see that. So here we see that we are able to get this user. You see here, we are able to get this user by the ID number 4, right? That is what we put. So this is the email, right? sam@gmail.com. So now we're able to get the user after logging in. Now let's go back to Postman. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to our what is it called? Our SQL Workbench. So going back to our SQL Workbench, we see that the password of our user here is plain, right? It's not encoded. which means we create this users have been, we created this user without Spring Security. So right now we cannot log in with this user. So if we try to log in, let's try to log in with this user and see what happens. So the username here is supposed to be the email here. That is what we've configured to be the username. So I'm just going to copy this and see if we can log in with this. Copy, and remember the password is Sam1001. So let's go back here. I'm going to go back here, and let me put this and put the password of Sam, SAM1001. Let's see if we can log in with this. This one, you see, bad credentials. We cannot log in here because these users we have in our database is not recognized by Spring Security, right? It's not recognized because we didn't create this user through Spring Security. So what we're going to do right now is to go back to our IDE, and we're going to create a couple of users through Spring Security. But the first thing, before we start creating a couple of users, some users, we're going to create a bin to encode the password encoder. Because if you look, that password was plain, right? So let's create a bin called password encoder. So now we're going to have a public, remember every bin must be public. There is no bin should be private, right? So here we have a public password encoder, yeah? So we're just going to call this password encoder as well. And then we're going to return a new bcrypt. Return new bcrypt password encoder. So this is what we'll be returning here, and we are going to annotate this method here with the @bin annotation to make it a valid bin, right? So here we have gotten this, and so what we're going to do here is we're going to open up our user package, user service here. So if we look here, this is the method to create a new user, to add a new user to the database, right? So before saving the user to database, we are going to encrypt the password here. So here we're just going to call the user, we're going to set the user password, user.set password, and here we're going to call the password encoder. Password, okay, I have not created this. We're going to get this object here. We're going to auto-wire the bin we just created here. So I'm going to say private password encoder, right? And this one is going to be auto-wired by this here because we're using Lombok. So if you open up the project you've just downloaded from my Git repository, you open the POM file, you see that we're using a dependency called Lombok. So Lombok is giving us this annotation here to auto-wire this, right? So now we're going to be calling this password encoder here. Password encoder.encode. So we're going to encode the password. And here, what are we encoding is the password of the user. So we're going to say user.getPassword, right? So here we say user.getPassword. So that is it. So right now, before we move further, we're going to find a way to log in into our system so we can create a user, right? So how can we log in? How do we log in into our system? Because we cannot log in with the user we have in the database. We cannot log in through this. So which means right now, if we go to Postman, let's make a term that we want to create a new user. So I'm just going to rerun this server. I'm going to restart the server to see if we can create a new user or not. Okay, so now our project is up and running. So let's go back to Postman to see if we can create any user. So now I'm just going to come here to the user API, the endpoints, and add a new user, right? So now we're going to add a new user. Let's see if that will work out. So here we have Joy, we have Joy Morris, and we have this as a row of users. So let's hit on this and see what happens. So here we have unauthorized. So we cannot add any user, right? Because this whole project has been locked down by Spring Security, and we cannot create a new user from the browser. So we have to create a new user from the Postman. So now how do we log in to create a new user. So that is what we're going to do right now. So now we are going to go to our security package here, and we are going to create we're going to start implementing the user detail service to get our user from the database, right? The first one we're going to do here is we're going to implement this user details. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is to extend. We're going to implement the Spring Security user details here. So here we just say implement user details. User details. So this one is coming from Spring Security. So here we're going to implement all the methods in here. So we're just going to select all the methods and click on OK. Good. So now we have all these from Spring Security: the password, the username, all these. You just have to go through all these. So what we're just going to do here is we have to return the password of the user and the username, because we want to actually find a way to log into our system so we can perform our duties as a user or admin. So the first thing we're going to do here, I'm just going to declare a couple of fields here. So the first one is the username, right? So I'm going to say private string username. Sorry, this username. And here we're going to have, you see this granted authority here. So we are expected to return a collection of authorities, because a user can have more than one authority. It can be an admin, can be at the same time, it can have multiple roles in the system. So now we are expected to return a collection of granted authorities. So for that here, we're going to have, I'm going to create another stuff here, another field here called with a list. I'm going to create a list of granted authority here. So have list. So I'm just going to call these authorities right here. So now, having done this, we're just going to return the object of our user, which is, where is it? This user here. Now, the reason why we are trying to implement this one separately, because I don't want to make our class look clumsy. Because if, for example, if we implement the user details directly from here, all these methods here they're going to be in this very our own class. But I want to keep our class separate and clean, and everything that concerns Spring Security should be here. So we're going to return this object of user right from here, right? So what we're going to do here is to create a constructor that will take this user detail, that will take this user here, so that we can get this email and the username, because we've created that the email here should be the ID of the user, right? Which is we find it a user by email. So now we're going to implement this here so that we can return this user, we can get the email of the user and the password, so that we can log in, and the roles, so that we can log in into our system, right? So for that here, I'm just going to create a constructor here, right? Sorry, create a constructor here, select none. And here we're going to have, we're going to take the object of the user here, our user, here, user. So this one is going to be coming from our system here. Please be careful. So you be careful to take the one coming from our system, right? So where is the one from our system here? User from here. This is our system here, daily code work. This is the one we are going to be taking right now. So I'm just going to take this, and now we're just going to set we're just going to set, we're going to get the email and the password of the user and the authorities of this user down into this class, right? So here we're going to say username. So username here, because our username is our email, right? So username is equal to user.get email here, .get email. And here we're going to have the password. Right. So now we're going to have the collection of the authorities, of the granted authorities from our user, right? Since a user can have more than one authority. So here we just say authorities equals, so we're going to have arrays dot string, So here we're going to pass in a function with our user, right? So user.get rows here, get row. Here I'm just going to, let's say this one is rows. I'm just going to add s here, right? And down here I'm going to add this s here, add it here, right? So here we're going to say this here, the split. What's wrong with my keyboard? And here we're going to, let me just push this down, break this down here. Sorry. Okay, so here we have to map this, right? So we just map this with a function, and we're going to have the simple granted authorities, right? Simple granted authorities like this, and we have to collect dots. We have to collect them to a list. I'm going to break this down, break it down, and break it down. Okay, so here we have gotten everything we wanted here. So what we're just going to do here is to return these authorities, right? Return authorities. Yes, just return this, and here we're going to return the password. Return the password, and here we're going to return the username. Return the username, and every other one here we're going to set through, right? Like we're going to set them true like that, because like now is account non-expired, is, you know, done just for the demo purpose. It shouldn't expire. Not lock, no. We are just returning true for every other one here for now. We can change this next time in other demo if we want to do something else, right? So now we just turn every one of them to true. Okay, so I'm just going to have, let's just have the Lombok here to get our getter and setters from here. Okay, so we're good to go. So now we are done with this configuration of our user details class, right? So the next one we're going to do here is to start implementation of this here. So the first thing we're going to do is to implement the user service details, right? The user details service, sorry. So now we're just going to say implement user details service from this, coming from Spring itself, right? And this one here has one method that we need to override, which is load user by username, right? Load user by username. So right here, this is the method we have. We just have to Now, how do we're going to load our user from the database, and how do we do that? We need our user service to get user from the database, right? So here we're going to pass our user service here. So I'm just going to say private. We're going to auto wire our user service here. So I'm going to say private user service, our user service from our project, right? So I just call this user service. Not actually user service. I'm going to user repository. I'm going to load directly from the database. So user repository. Call this user repository. So user repository, right? And we are going to auto wire this. And actually, we're going to make this one as a component too. So this one we can make it a component or a service, but I just want to make it a component. But we can just have a specific component, right? Like at service here, it will still work, but I just want to make it a generic component. So now we're going to auto wire this. Auto wired. We're going to auto wire this. And after this now, so what next do we do? So we are going to return, we're just going to return the user repository dot find by email here, because our email is our username, right? So we find by email. So here we're going to pass this here. We're going to pass this this here. Oh, sorry. Ctrl Z. So just say username. And now we're going to, so if you look here, we are returning the object of user details, right? But here we are returning the object of a user. So what we're going to do here is to convert our user to the to our user details, right? So that is what we have created here. Where is it? So that is the reason why we have to implement this one first, right? Because we'll be returning it in our user service here. Okay, so quickly we're going to return our user. We're going to map this our user object to user details. Okay, so now I'm just going to say .map. So here we're going to map this to our user details. So for that, I'm going to break this down, and so we're going to have our library user detail, because that is the user details name right here. That is the one we've implemented here already. So that is what we're returning here right now. Here we're going to, because it's a kind of, it's optional, right? So this one is optional, which means, optional means the user might exist and might not exist. So we're going, so here, if the user doesn't exist, we're going to be running into a problem called a non-pointer exception. So for us to guard against non-pointer exception, so we're going to have this here, we're going to say or else, right? So we'll say or else throw. We're going to throw an error. If the user is not found, it's going to throw an error, an exception, right? But if the user is found, it's going to bring it out, right? Okay, cool. So now let's have this here as here, use our lambda function here, and we say return new username not found. Username not found. Where is it? Oh yeah. Boom. So here we go. And here we're just going to define a simple message here. So we're just going to say no user found. No user found. You can just define any meaningful message here, just to alert the user that the user they're looking for is not present in our database, right? So that is what we're going to do. That's what we're doing here right now. So now we are done with implementing our user details, just our user detail service, right? Just as simple as this. Okay. So what do we do next? So now that we have done everything here, so right here, we're going to create a new bean called, so here we have public security filter chain. We're going to create a bean called security filter chain, right? So here we have security filter chain. So right now, we're just going to call this one the same name, and we're going to pass in here the security, the HTTP security object, right? So here we're going to wire this in here. So just going to say HTTP security here, and we're going to call this one as HTTP, right? And before I forget, we're going to annotate this with the bin annotation. So here we just say bin annotation, right? Okay, cool. So the first thing we're going to do here is to disable the CSRF. So here I'm just going to return. Return CS, the CS RF return HTTP, the HTTP dot CSRF dot disable. We're going to disable this, and I haven't done this. Then we're going to say dot authorize HTTP request dot request matcher. So we're going to specify the endpoints we're going to allow in here, the ones we're going to allow. So here I'm just going to say break this down, and I'm going to say dot permit all, right? Dot and authorize. I think I have to zoom this out a little bit. I'm just going to make this full screen so we can see this. Okay, so okay, let me zoom it. All right. So here we have dot request matcher again, request matcher. So here we're going to define the ones that we want to secure. The one we want to lock down here, we're going to declare them here, which is the one we want admin to access, the only admin to access. We're going to declare them here. So doing that here, I'm going to say that has authority, and this authority is going to be admin authority admin. So if the user is an admin, you should be able to access this endpoint, right? So here we're going to say dot any request dot authenticated here dot authenticated. So I'm going to break this down and break this down and break this down. So we're going to say dot and dot and, oh no, we don't have to, dot and form login, right? Dot and again, so we're going to build dot and build. So we're going to build here. Okay, we're going to build here. Okay, so right here we're going to declare some lists of endpoints we're going to allow, and here we're going to declare some list of endpoints we want to secure for only admin, right? So for that, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to go, let me go to the class level, right? So I'm just going to go here and create a static constant here, static final string array. So this one we're going to say secured. Is it correct? It's not. Secured URLs. So we're going to add s here. Yeah, we're going to make it here, and so we're going to say equal to the list of array of URLs, so to speak. And here I'm just going to duplicate this and name this to unsecured. So this one is going to be the unsecured URL. So we'll say unsecured URLs, right? So this one here, the only URL we're going to secure here, let me go back here, project. So the only URLs, the endpoints we're going to secure here, like I said, is this three here. We're going to secure these three: 1, 2, 3. The add new book, update book, and delete book. So these are the URL we're going to secure, and these two here is going to be allowed, right? Add view all books and find book by ID. So going back here to our configuration, so I'm just going to have this a full screen, and I'm going to have the secure URL. I'm going to have the one from the books, BOOS books, and everything here should be secured except these two here. So I'm going to allow this one here. So here we have books / all. So this one should not be secured, right? And number two, we have books / book, which is finding a book by the ID, right? / the ID. So this one also shouldn't be secured. Should allow every user can view this. So this one has to be like this. And also we are going to allow the user, like we said, we're going to allow the user API. This user, sorry, is supposed to be here. Good. So this user here, every request coming from this one here should be allowed. Don't secure anything here, just for the demo purpose, right? We are focusing on securing our book library, okay? So now, because of that, I'm just going to allow everything from user to be viewed by any user. Every request coming from user API should be allowed for free. Cool. So now I'm going to have this here called users and / all requests coming should be free. And now we're going to come back here to say this permit all. I'm going to say unsecured URLs here, and this one we're going to say secured URL here. Oh gosh, this secured, yeah, secured URLs, and we're going to throw the exception here. So let's do the exception. All right. So here, this one is to, let me try to bring them, make it clear a little bit. Okay, so here we can see it clearly than before, right? Okay, so we are done with this, and this one is a bin as usual. All right. Okay, here we can see that our project is up and running. So let's go back to Postman and see how we can create a new user. So here we're here again. Let me try to get every user if we'll be allowed to do that. So get every user, right? Okay, so we are allowed to access every user. So now let's try to get all books. For example, let's get all books here. And here also we are able to get the books we have in our database. So now let's try to create a new book, because we say that only authenticated users can create a book, right? So here we're just going to say, okay, add a new book. This is the body of the book, and I'm just going to send this book to our database. So here we have okay, but actually it's asking us to log in. So which means the Spring Security is actually working here. So it's asking us to log in. We have no access. We have no authority to add new book to the database. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to create a couple of users here, so that we can actually log in to create a book. So now I'm going to have this user here already set up here. So I'm just going to send this user to see if we can create a new user. Okay, good. So now we're able to create a new user, and you can see right now the password has been encoded, right? It's been encoded. So now I'm going to create another user with the role of admin. So I'm just going to change this to admin, and this guy is going to be Sam Johnson, and the email is going to be sam email at gmail.com, and the password is going to be sam1001, right? But it's an admin. Let's say Samson here. Okay, so this one I'm going to send to the database and see what happens. Okay, good. A user with this email already exists, really. These are the these are the exception I've defined already in the previous project. So please make sure you check the exception package and get the configuration of this. You can search this, check this one here, this package here. So this is where all this one has been defined already. That's what we're getting in Postman, right? So now this image is already in existence. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add P here. So let's send it. Okay, good. So right now we got 2 users. So let's go back to our database and refresh. So let's refresh our users. Okay, we have a mistake here. Oh, we didn't add row. We actually add row, but there's a problem here. I'm sorry, guys. We need to restart we need to recreate our table. So I'm going to go back to our system and we're going to recreate our table in our database because of the changes we made. So the table, the structure of the table need to be changed. So I just want to go here and change this to create. So now I'm going to run again. I'm going to just rerun this again. So let's see what happened. Okay, our project is up and running and we see that our table has been recreated. So let's go to our data SQL workbench and refresh. So we see that everything is gone and we're having our rows here. So now let's go to before I forget, let me change this. Let me change this to update. Because if I don't do this, if we run this project again, we're going to lose everything we have in the database. So now let's go to Postman and create a new user. So let's recreate this user. So now we just go to the body and send. Oh, we're going to get it wrong because there's a mistake here. No row. The row here, oh, rows, none, because we forget to update this. So let me put this as rows here. So we cannot use this user anymore. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to go here, refresh, and I'm just going to delete. Let's delete this user from here because we cannot use it. It has no row. So apply, and apply. So now the table is empty once again. So let's go back to Postman and let's resend this user. Okay, good. So now we have the row as an admin, right? So let's create a new user called Rita. So she's a user. She's not an admin. She's a user. Here, user. And here we're going to change her password to her name here. And the email also we're going to change to her name, right? Here. So let's fire this and see what we got. Okay, cool. So now we got 2 users. So I'm just going to close this for now. Let me close this for now and get all users. So let's get all users from the database. So right here we have 2 users in our database with ID2 and ID3. So now that we have gotten users, so let's try to create a new book. Let's try to create a new book here. As we know already, we cannot create a book. We can't create a book without logging in, right? So if I try to send this right now, we're going to be asked to log in, right? Now we got some users in a database. So let's go to our browser. Let's take this. Let's go to our browser and log in if actually we can log in with the new users we've just created. So right here, I'm going to refresh this page, or I'm going to paste this here and let's get it fresh. So now we have a user in a database called sam@gmail.com, and the password is sam1001. Is that correct? Yeah, we are able to log in here. We are able to log in here. It works. So, but here we cannot create we cannot create a new book because right now we are using form authentication, right? But what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to disable this form authentication here. Where is it? I'm going to go back to our, let's go back to our project here, and I'm going to stop the server and go back to our authentication. So I'm going to remove this here. What is it? I'm going to remove this. I'm going to change this to HTTP basic, right? I'm going to change this here like this. So now let's run it again. Okay, so here we see that our project is up and running. So let's go back to Postman. Let's go back to Postman and see. So here, or let's try to go to the browser and see if we still have the form to log in. So I'm just going to post this here, right, and do this again. Okay, so here we logged in, right, because here is logged in. I think anyways, let's go back to Postman. So now, but we cannot still log in here, right? We cannot here we have unauthorized because we cannot create a book here. We are still being unauthorized, so we need to log in from here. So now if we go here, we see that gets not supported, right? Here we have, I'm sorry, okay, you say get method is not supported here. Let's find that. Let's go back to Postman. So now we need to provide our authentication here. So we need to specify here. We need to go here to authorization and see here basic authentication. And here we have, is this the same email we have in the database? Let me refresh. Yeah, no, this one is different. So let's go here and add P. This one we add P here. Okay, and this one is Sam1001, right? Okay, so let's go back to see if we can create a new user. Good. So here we are able to create a new book here. We have been able to create a new book here. Here, because we've authenticated already here, and because this user is an admin, that is why we're able to create a new book. So now let's imagine, okay, let me quickly refresh our database. Let's refresh the book in our database and see here. So here we have one book here, right? Modern Java in Action. This is not the author, for example. Please forgive me, it's just for the demo purpose, right? This is not the author. So now let's try to log in with Rita. Rita is not an admin, remember, right? So let's log in with Rita, and the password of Rita is Rita1001. Let's try to see. Let's confirm the password in our database if we're right or wrong. Here, oh, sorry, it's coded, but I think we are right. So here we have the email is correct. So now let's try to send if we can create a new book. So I'm going to change this one to Modern Spring Boot in Action, right? The same author. So here we have first edition. So we're just going to leave it as this is first, the same author, just for the demo purpose, right? So there's no big deal there. So now I'm going to send. So here we see forbidden, which means Rita is not an admin, and we are trying to log in. Rita is the one that logged in, right? So she cannot create a book. You can see here she cannot, right? But now if we change this back to, if we change this authorization back to Samson, here, for example, SAMP, right? SAMP, and change this one here back to SAM, SAM here. Let's try to see again if we can create a new book. So let's fire send. Good. So now we see that we are able to create a new book. So now let's find how many books have we gotten in our database. So let's find all books. So here we got 2 books, 1 and 2. Modern Spring Boot in action and Modern Java in action, right? So let's go back to our database and we see that we got 2 books here. So here we got 2 books, right? Okay, right, which means we are able to secure our API and everything is actually working. So we're able, what we've done so far is to secure this, we've been able to secure this, we've locked down these 3 endpoints for only users that are admin to access. So we see that everything is working fine and just as expected, right? Just that the goal of this demo. All right, so we can see that our project is actually working as expected, right? Our demo is working as expected. So before we round up this demo, I'm going to let's go back and log in with the admin, the user that is not an admin, right? So here we have Rita, and we have the password also is Rita, right? Good. So now we are trying to what we're going to do right now. So let's try to delete a book, right? So here I'm just going to try to delete a book, if she can delete a book or not. So you're going to put it back here at gmail.com, and here we have 1001, right? Is it correct? Yes, correct. So now let's try to delete a book. So here in our database we have a book with ID 1 and ID 2. So let's try to delete a book with ID 1. So let's send this. So if we look at this here, we see that forbidden, which means she has no authority to delete this book. She cannot delete the book. So now let's change the login to the guy with the admin role here. And here let's have yeah, I think there's the password, right? Okay, cool. So now let's send the same request and see if it works or not. So here, let's send it. Boom. So here we see that this guy is able to delete a book because he's an admin, but the other guy could not delete a book because she's not an admin. So let's go back to our database and see. So now we see that the book with ID 1 has been deleted by the admin. So which means our project is working, our demo is working as expected, right? Okay guys, thank you so much. The link of the complete project is also below this video. So just follow the link and get the complete code for this project and open it up, set it up in your IDE and practice the code. Try to understand the code, what we did. And if you have any comments, don't forget to drop it below in the comment section. And also, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please don't forget to do that. Thank you so much for coming, and please subscribe to my channel and by supporting me. Also, please like my videos and share my videos. Help support my channel by subscribing. Thank you so much for coming, and hoping to see you in our next demo. Thank you so much and goodbye.